One of my favorite business publications, which I actually have not been reading as much as I used to, is the Harvard Business Review. It really is a great resource for strategy, for culture, for tactics. It's wonderful. I love the Harvard Business Review, and I noticed a post featured from one of my influencers on LinkedIn, and it's new research. We got some new research that I thought was very helpful, and so I wanted to share it with y'all. It's very helpful to retail, but it's very helpful to a myriad of business industries because what have we been talking about a lot? Inflation. People have been really struggling with how do I price my product given all these different forces and changes, interest rates, inflation rates, supply chain shortages, scarcity, production costs, the whole kit and caboodle, and of course, global competition because increasingly, if you're selling a product, you're not just competing against the folks in town, you're competing against options across the world. So January 20th, 2023, we have new research that was featured in the Harvard Business Review, co-authored by a Mr. Evangelidis and a Miss Gunati. The title of the article is Research How Price Changes Influence Consumers' Buying Decisions. And once again, pricing is really important. We have to get better and better about changing price. Why? The article will tell us. We're going to go through this article, but I think it gives us insights into the best tactics to influence sales, but then also putting our shopper's hat on, it helps us be more aware of our natural bias and tendencies when it comes to how can pricing changes not manipulate us. Potentially there could be manipulative pricing tactics, but influence us to purchase or not to purchase. That is the question. So we're going to go through this article. We're going to share some of our thoughts, and then we'll wrap it home. So going into the article, it brings up an interesting point. More and more transparency and data straight up for shoppers. Not only can you look at more and more alternatives easily across a desktop or even a smartphone experience, you can even look at the pricing changes over time when you're looking at a product, even down to using tools like Honey, where you can actually see a full-on line chart and see how expensive it is compared to alternatives, or how expensive it was year over year or month over month. It's crazy, the technology. So let's get into this article and talk about why this is a problem that we need to address and why we can't ignore it, and we need to understand consumer behavior around here. Whether you're buying a plane ticket, pair of socks, more and more online shopping platforms are now offering consumers a detailed look into products' historical pricing. But how does this information influence buying decisions? To explore this question, we, meaning the researchers, conducted a series of experiments with a total of more than 5,000 business school students and working adults across the United States and Europe. We measured the impact of different kinds of price shifts on people's interests in purchasing products such as plane tickets, a new TV, Bluetooth speakers, or a reusable water bottle. In each study, we showed participants identical product information, but we varied both the direction, i.e. whether the price increase or decrease, and frequency, the number of increases or decreases. So both, the variation of the price change, and then how often you change the price of the price data that they were shown. We then asked them whether they wanted to buy the product, and we identified several consistent trends. Let's continue in the article. First, when consumers saw that the price today was lower than it had been in the past, they were more likely to buy now because the current price seemed to be a good deal. Similarly, when consumers saw that the price today was higher than it had been in the past, they were less likely to buy now because the current price seemed like a bad deal. For example, all else being equal, consumer sees that a product currently is priced at $100. It was $200 last week. They're more likely to buy now, since the current price is more appealing than the previous price. Conversely, they see that same product was $50 last week, now it's $100. They're likely to hold off on purchasing since the current price is less appealing than the previous price. All right, we all get that, right? Pretty simple, straightforward. All right, now let's get into the other variable, the number of pricing changes. The picture gets more complicated when you consider the frequency of historical pricing shifts. In our studies, we found that if the consumers were shown at least 3 changes in the same direction, they were likely to assume the price would continue to move in the same direction. Whereas, if they were only shown 1 or 2 changes in the same direction, they expected the price to change in the opposite direction. In other words, if a product that's currently priced at $100 was $200 2 weeks ago, $150 last week, and $125 yesterday, Consumers will expect the price to continue to fall. We're seeing a trend here, ladies and gentlemen, making them likely to hold off on purchasing. But if they only see that the current price is 100 and the price 2 weeks ago was 200, or if they see that it was 200 2 weeks ago, $50 last week, and $200 yesterday, then consumers are more likely to expect that the price will go back up again, pushing them to buy now. So just to make sure y'all are tracking, if you're doing a sharp one-time price change, it's going to make people perk up, all right? If it's a sharp price change down, okay, that's a good deal. I need to get that. Sharp price change up, that's too expensive. I mean, when last time I checked it or whatever the previous marker was, it was lower. That's too expensive. But then if you start creating some kind of trend, like a ding, 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 more iterative, incremental price change down or up, they're seeing a trend. They expect that trend to continue, and they will act accordingly. If they see a bunch of trickle price drops, okay, I'm gonna play the waiting game. I'm gonna put on my poker face and wait for you to fold. I'll just keep on expecting it to decline. Conversely, if they see that the price trickles up, okay, maybe there's a bunch of demand for this right now, or it's really hot, so I need to grab it because it's going to continue to go up. That's kind of how this mind is working when they're doing this experiment. So what does this mean for sellers? We're going to get into that part of what it means for sellers. Let's hear a quick message from our sponsor for today's episode, Soul Insights. This episode is sponsored by Soul Insights. Is your business looking to hit the next level of growth? For many businesses, they know they need to spend more on marketing, but don't want to simply shoot in the dark. They want a smart, data-driven path to solid growth. If this is you, then Soul Insights can help you to identify, attract, and retain ideal customers. Soul Insights is a strategic marketing agency which helps small and mid-sized businesses understand their best customers, who they are, their shopping behavior, and acquire new best customers based on that data. Oh, and it's all measured and tracked to ensure you get more profit bang for your marketing buck. Head to soulinsights.com right now and take the 90-second quiz to find your path to the next level. So let's talk about what this means for us as business owners who are setting pricing for whatever our product or service is, especially if it's more of a transactional type of nature. If your goal is to encourage consumers to buy now, okay, our research, meaning their research, suggests that either a single large price decrease or a series of smaller price increases will be most effective. All right, now I explained that in the previous segment. It may be tempting to slowly lower the price over time, but our data show that this leads consumers to assume that the price will continue to fall, making them hesitant to buy. They're going to wait you out, right? They're going to see if you'll fold. But if they see just a single price drop, they're more likely to expect a reversal, i.e. a single large price increase in the near future. That's going to push them to buy the product now. Similarly, if you just hike the price once, consumers may expect it to fall back down again, all right? But if you repeatedly hike the price in smaller increments, assuming you can do so without pricing out buyers entirely, consumers are likely to expect the price to continue to rise, and so they'll be more likely to buy before it does. On the flip side, our findings can also help buyers make informed decisions about whether and when they can choose to make a purchase. As with any irrational bias, awareness of the natural tendency to expect streaks to continue and single large changes to reverse can help consumers question this assumption before acting on it. Instead of letting this arbitrary expectation guide buying decisions, consumers may benefit by doing a little bit more research around the underlying factors driving price shifts. For example, a predictable one-off event like Black Friday is likely to impact prices differently than a geopolitical event such as Russia's invasion of Ukraine last winter or a macroeconomic trend such as rising inflation. Buyers may also benefit from learning about a product's longer-term price history, fluctuations, and typical industry-wide price ranges to avoid being disproportionately influenced by near-term price changes. It's also always a good idea to think about both how urgent your need for a given product is and your own risk tolerance for a potential price increase, as this can affect whether it's worth it for you to wait and see if the price falls. I'm going to take a quick pause here to interject. Obviously, you may be thinking like, okay, Phillip, I don't need to think about this that in depth as a pricing. When it comes to price changes, I'm just going to go, if when I want something, I grab it and I'll go do some Google comparison searches or check Amazon or wherever you shop most frequently. Or I'll just use my honey to see, and if it makes me feel good. And I get that. Like, listen, I make very emotional purchasing decisions too. Nearly all of us, we make those purchasing decisions emotionally and then we justify them rationally. I get it. This obviously is going to be most helpful for you as a shopper, but also you need to understand more of the psychology as a seller. The higher the price tag is of the product or the category of product, right? If we're talking about, $30 t-shirts, that's one thing. If we're talking about $3,000 pieces of sofa, now that's a whole different category. Same thing if you're selling a higher end technology products. If you're a electronics retailer, the higher the price tag, the more that you have to be more strategic with these changes, because people will think about this. And then us as shoppers, you need to have that kind of self-awareness. Well, you want to buy at the moment, or you don't want to buy at the moment. Well, the more you could take time to understand what are the factors influencing pricing. Are these guys just skimming cream off the top? Are they kind of just playing games to try to influence you, or is there actual market forces that are driving pricing changes, be it scarcity or lots of alternatives driving down the price because of increased supply? You got to have that economics hat on, and then you have to juxtapose that or add in as another factor, what your sense of urgency is, what your risk tolerance is, the whole thing. So this gets into the nerdy side of pricing, but whether you're sitting there to consciously step outside of yourself as a shopper or to really think about this as a seller, this is all happening subconsciously, and we're making tons of decisions subconsciously, or as Michael Scott says, it's a bunch of snap decisions, whether or not you're actually thinking this through or not. So I think that one of the things that we take home from this is, as a shopper, depending on how much that price tag is for you, you're talking about furniture, electronics, for example, bigger ticket items, or maybe that $400 pair of boots, you got to think about, okay, why is the price moving in this direction? Is it because of actual market forces? Is it because of something competitive? Or is it because of a marketing tactic to try to drive a decision? And then once again, as sellers, we know from this research that what we're currently seeing, and you need to think these things through because there's additional tools available to consumers so they can actually see and compare lots of different sides of this. Whether or not you do gradual price changes or sudden price changes, and that up or down is going to affect most consumers in a very predictable way. So we'll finish up the very end of the article. There's countless factors that influence consumers' decisions around whether and when to buy, and sellers' decisions around how to price their products. But it's important for both sides to recognize the key role that expectations play in influencing these decisions. As historical price data becomes increasingly available through both retailers' own platforms and third-party price tracking services, managers and consumers alike will benefit from acknowledging how both the direction and frequency of historical price shifts influence our assumptions regarding how the price is likely to change going forward, and whether or not it's worth buying now.